Don't be like Ogi.
Just don't be like Ogi.
That's
It's
all you
easy.
gotta do. That's all you
Bro, I
gotta do.
mean, for the record, she wears gloves, so she's good to
And
go.
she wears long sleeves. Really long sleeves.
Really long sleeves.
What's she doing under those sleeves, Natai? What are you doing under that blanket, Natai?
My hands are up here. Stop fucking gaslighting me, piece of shit.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Anime Club After Dark, the podcast that delves into all things anime, manga, and otaku culture related. I'm your host, Alex, but you can call me Senpai. And joining me tonight, I have our poser extraordinaire, Natai.
We're finally here. We're finally here. It's good to be here. Finally.
It's been
After
like 3
4,000 years.
It's been 87 years. Yeah, recording this about 3 weeks later than we had originally planned to, but yeah, we're finally here. This is well, we're calling it Owarimonogatari Spoilercast Part 3. This is actually the Spoilercast for Owarimonogatari second season. Listen, for the purposes of our Spoilercast series that we've been doing, this is Owarimonogatari Part 3, just to make it easy.
Hey, at least this is the last time it's gonna be this confusing.
Yeah. With this,
which says a lot.
This is our penultimate Monogatari Spoilercast, next to last. The only thing we have after this is Zoku.
Crazy.
But yeah, I am also up against a time crunch, so let's
get this shit rolling.
Let's go. So we have one ED for the entire season for this this 3-arc segment of Owarimonogatari. It is Shiori by Claris. Claris is back doing yet another ED for the Monogatari series.
Yeah, just a chill ED. I think it's the least interesting part of this entire season.
Now, while the song is the same in all 3 arcs, but you do get slightly altered visuals when it gets to a different arc, which I thought was a nice little touch.
Yeah, it's good. Just a very chill, typical Monogatari. I like it.
It's there's not much to say about it because it's got that same kind of art style that we've seen in a lot of Monogatari EDs. It's just the song is chill, like you say. Yeah. It's very chill. It's very relaxing.
You do have those like clips from like previous EDs from the entire show, which is really nice as well. Yes. Like it's all coming together, you know.
Yeah. Which is, it's kind of funny considering that this is supposed to be like the culmination. This is like the climax of the Monogatari series, at least the main story of the Monogatari series. Yeah. And it's got such a chill ED.
Yeah, definitely. But we are blessed with 3 different OPs that are all like absolute bangers.
And we're gonna instead of doing our regular like mixing this up or talking about this episode by episode, we're gonna do it arc by arc. So we got 3 arcs in this second half season, part 3, however you want to call it. We have Maoi Hell, we have Hitagi Rendezvous, and we have Ogi Dark. And
all 3 of them very chunky. A lot of talking, a lot of exposition.
There is I mean, the Monogatari series as a whole is known for its insane level of talkiness. These arcs, there's a lot of talking. There's a lot of talking. Let's talk about Maoi Hell, which is the first arc of this part of Owarimonogatari. We got the first like little intro bit at the very end of Koyomi Monogatari.
That's right.
Kind of teased there.
Fucking dies.
Kind of teased there right at the end. Yeah, Hitagi. Araragi fucking dies. The OP that we get for this is Terminal, which is sung by Emiri Kaito, who is the voice actress for Hachikuji. So that's cool.
Might be my favorite Hachikuji OP.
It's really good.
It's very vibrant. I love the part at the beginning where it, like she's like piling up the stones. It's like already it's referencing the fucking thing where like the dead pile stones next to the river of death or whatever. It's like the whole thing is like very vibrant and colorful, and the song is really fun. You know.
You wouldn't expect that it's a representation of hell by how colorful it is.
Yeah, very true. I mean, that goes for the entire like visually the entire arc. I like we'll jump into it, but basically I love how hell is like portrayed very in a very colorful way. Like they use they finally take the visuals of the ED, just like almost like paper like cut figures of the cast, and use them in the actual show itself.
Yeah.
Just like the EDs. It's really really cool to see it featured the actual like story, you know.
Yeah, that was, I mean, that was a cool little touch, and I liked it. So it starts off like exactly how we saw Koyama Monogatari end. We have Araragi is drowning, in air
No, it's a
quotes.
metaphor.
It's a metaphor
For his depression.
for being overwhelmed, really.
Yeah, dying kind of sucks, you know.
Yeah. I do. You mentioned it here, and I definitely want to bring it up. The watercolor visuals were really nice.
Yeah, it's so cool. Like it looks beautiful.
And then, of course, he meets Hachikuji, and he is understandably excited.
I like how he sort of like pumps himself. It's like, no, I'm not gonna do this. I'm not gonna go through this routine again. I'm not gonna grope her. And then he's like pumping himself, like, Hachikuji!
And he does the exact same thing he says he's not gonna do.
Classic Araragi in action.
A classic Koyomi W right there is what that is.
Now they mentioned their location, which is like the lowest like circle of hell called Avicii, and I'm like, what? Like, is that an actual thing? Avicii?
Yeah, in Buddhist like philosophy, yeah.
I was thinking of the DJ, you know.
Well, he's dead now.
Oh
maybe,
no!
Maybe
no.
he's in Avicii. You don't know.
Aviciiception.
Yeah, right.
I found that funny. I didn't know it's an actual thing, and that's interesting.
I don't know a whole lot about Buddhist like thought and philosophy, so I don't feel like I'm too I don't even
educated.
I'm not qualified. I'm not qualified to really talk on it too much, but yeah, it is a real thing. And something I did want to point out is more so than the anime series itself, it's mentioned a couple of times in the light novels that Araragi is indeed a Buddhist. Like he's a genuinely like believing Buddhist. Yeah.
Interesting.
In the light novels, so that's something that the anime doesn't really highlight too much.
Yeah, play off of that too much. That's interesting. So basically, he's in hell. Thanks for Gain killing him.
Thanks, Gain.
Yeah, thanks, Gain. And Hachikuji pretty much explains to him that she's also stuck here in hell because like children that die before their parents are sent to this section of hell,
which seems very unfair.
Yeah, that seems kind of harsh, you know. Yeah. It's not her fault for getting run over, you know.
Yeah. Imagine like you have no choice but to be sent to hell just because you happen to die in the womb.
Actually, that's not allowed according to Christianity, am I right? Oh my god.
Moving over that.
Moving on. So Hachikuji claimed that Gain, her plan is pretty much to kill Araragi and then to revive him, because we know that Araragi and Kishara are sort of like bound together. So if Araragi dies, then Kishara is released from these shackles, you could say.
Yeah.
Why, we're still not sure.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have this sequence of both Araragi and Hachikuji going through these like past events Araragi lived through, starting with, funnily enough, that night where he meets Kishara for the first time. Now, I found that really, really interesting that when they revisit that, we see the setting as the first time we saw it back in Monogatari, where she's like in the book under the street light.
Yeah, the street
light. Whereas in the movie, she is like in that train station. I thought it's really interesting they stayed consistent with the first time we saw it back in Monogatari versus to how the movies.
It almost makes you feel like that Kizu Monogatari kind of takes place in a different timeline slightly.
Like the movie version is like a different take on events. Yeah. I just found it really, really curious that
I
they
will say
did
the
that.
first time that I watched Owarimonogatari back in 2017 when this first came out, and they started like showing off the stuff from like past episodes or past parts of the
Yeah,
Monogatari season, I'm like, oh no, are we having a clip show right before the finale? Don't pull a Seinfeld.
pretty much. But it's I thought it's really. Then we pretty much go through like beat for beat, like all the girls he saved through Bakemonogatari mainly.
Mm,
So like you have Kishad and Kizu technically, and Hanekawa and Itagi and all of these girls,
mm.
and then Araki sort of like wonders to himself what would have happened if he didn't save Kiss Shot, and all these like chain of events wouldn't have happened. Because it's crazy to think, but the entirety of the story so far has taken over the course of 1 year.
Yeah.
Kind of crazy year, you know.
Yeah, well, he Araragi himself even goes on to say later in this, not I don't think it's in this arc. I actually think it's in Ogi Dark, where he
In
says,
Ogi Dark, yeah.
"It was a hell of a year."
And then they come across that moment back in Bakemonogatari where, kind of strange to say back in Bake, but whatever. Then they see Nadeko, and Aragi goes back to his regrets and his like feelings of regrets about Nadeko and how he like that whole those events played out, you know, with her being like kind of hurt
It's
because
funny.
he was
It's funny as he revisits a lot of these people and places that he's been to before. There's a running theme throughout his like recollection. It's regret and like self-doubt.
self-doubt, yeah.
And that's something that's been slowly creeping in throughout the course of the final season with Koyomi, and it's almost like they're trying to tell us there's a theme here.
It's crazy how from the beginning of final season, so back from Owari, even Tsukimonogatari, you have that theme of self-doubt and regrets,
Mm.
and this is definitely the culmination of all of that.
Speaking of
Funny
Suki
enough,
Monogatari, I did want to bring up something when he goes and he meets or revisits meeting Ononogi for the first time. She's like, she says, "Well, I regret to inform you that we don't have enough time to go over my story entirely." And it's like, God damn! Not only are you putting in regrets for Koyomi, you're putting them in for Ononoki as well. Fuck! And she even breaks the fourth wall. She directly addresses the audience.
I love that part where she's like, as the producer of this anime, we don't have the time. We need to focus. I love that. That's my favorite part of it.
As the producer of this anime, dear viewer, I don't have the time.
And pretty much when and she says there needs to be balance, which is sort of like a jumping off point to Aragi sort of wandering back to Ogi and her like idea of balance, how she claims that she's all about correcting mistakes, and then he thinks about like what would have happened like if only he would have corrected some of his mistakes that should lead to like a better outcome. Like again, back to Nadeko. Then Najikuji talks about like how correcting mistakes will only get people reward. What? What? I wrote it down.
Oh, he's got to ruffle through his notes.
I gotta ruffle through my brain, bro. And like she talks about how like if you want to achieve like something that seems impossible, like it's they pretty much have like a whole brain fart about like correcting shit. I don't like that part of this episode. I'll be very upfront with you about because like it feels a bit convoluted how they go about their point and connecting Ogi to this arc. Because it's mainly like talking about how he's like contrasting himself with Ogi about like she's all about correcting stuff because that's what she's been claiming to do for
the whole that whole like part of the conversation really just seems like a very roundabout way to get Koyomi to think of Ogi.
Yeah, pretty much. But that's okay because we see Dio again. Not Dio, Tadatsuru.
We see not Dio again.
Not Dio again.
Tadatsuru, yeah. When I first watched this again, I was shocked when we see him again because like I don't know how you thought of him when we saw him in what was it, Tsukimonogatari?
Yeah, it was.
I genuinely thought he was going to be like a one-off character.
Same, definitely.
I never expected him to come back, but then you do see him back, and you're like, what the fuck?
And then they give this this crazy backstory where he's like, "Oh, I've been dead for so many years. I've been making dolls this entire time. I've been replacing me."
The
And
person
it's
you
like,
killed wasn't even the real me.
Corontilda.
Yeah, literally, it is literally Dio's story from JoJo.
And so basically they meet Taratsuru, and as like we mentioned, he explains how again this is all part of Gain's plan, and he explains that a lot of things. First, again, that like Koyomi is back to being a normal person, even though he's dead, but
Yeah.
whatever. And he talks about how he's just like as he mentioned in Tsuki, he was pretty much like he's still playing a part with him now back in hell and preparing Aragi to go back to the world of the living.
I like how he's doing the same thing in hell that he was when he was in...
fucking folding paper to make these like origami figures.
Doing literally the same thing.
Is this a commentary on all of us? Like when we die, we're just gonna be podcasting all day in like hell or
I mean, maybe it just means that we're already in hell. We just don't know it.
Wait, so you're saying it doesn't matter if I kill myself? Oh shit! No. Stop!
For legal reasons, I will say no. For anecdotal reasons, maybe.
The shit that'll be awake for like 20 hours will do to you, man.
I know.
Anyway. So yeah. So again, as we mentioned, Onoki just killed a puppet. It wasn't a real Tadatsuri. He's been dead for a long time, and he managed to...
the more he like talks about the story and about how like there was not only his backstory, but like how Gaien came to him and with this plan and like all this interconnected shit. It's like not only is he literally a puppet, everyone around Gaien is literally her puppet. She's manipulating everyone around her.
It was crazy when you mentioned even Oshino knew about all this.
Yeah.
You know?
And then he even name drops Kaiki and is like, did Kaiki only come back because he knew he had a part to play in this shit?
Who the fuck even knows? I'd imagine like it'll be very cruel if even Kaiki's return was planned by Gaien. But I don't think it'll be I don't know. I think that's a bit far-fetched. You know, because Kai is the antithesis of like Gaien being like this, like, you know, controlling everything. It's like, no.
Would it really surprise you though?
Actually, by this point in the show, no, it wouldn't surprise me now. Also, really interesting how when we realized that Tadatsuru was like been dead for this entire time, it kind of blurs the line of is he a person? Is he an apparition then? Like, what is he? Which also that sort of question of what is an apparition, what is a person, kind of that's been raised every now and then in final season, leading up to what we're gonna see in the end of this season, which is really, really cool. I like how that theme is being reincorporated in this arc.
Yeah. I do kind of like this the thing at the end though, where at the end of this arc at least, where he's having like Tadatsuru and Koyomi are having this conversation. It's like, what did you really want to do? What is your actual goal here? And Koyomi doesn't have an immediate answer to that question.
Yeah. Tadatsuru is I've kind of said how he isn't underutilized, but how little we see of him, you know?
Yeah, well, I would argue like, Kaiki's kind of the same way. I mean, he has the one arc that's really dedicated to him, and you see him kind of here and there. But I feel like Kaiki's one where I think the more you would see of him, the less cool his character would be.
Especially is. Yeah, I agree. I think Kaiki was like handled perfectly with
which
the time we got of him.
Which I feel could be the same way with Tadatsuru as well. I feel like if you saw too much more of him, his character would lose his mystique.
I guess. Yeah, I think I agree with you to some extent on that.
We also like get like clarification on the story about the shrine as well from him.
Yeah,
which I thought was really it's an interesting concept that like that gods or deities really only exist because people believe in them.
It's really cool though because we get that sort of explanation back in Shinobu time when she explains how she landed in Japan and like the people worshipped her, so she became a god as proxy of that, it's
Mm-hmm.
like she isn't a god, but to them, like she blessed their land or something, so she became a god because of that. uh that's a concept I was always really liked,
Mm-hmm.
how supposed gods are actually just normal beings to some extent, but through circumstances and their actions, they like people they gather followings that turn them into gods.
Yeah.
I always found that interesting, actually. uh Dark Souls deals with that. It's really cool, if you guys ever wondered. Just gonna
Not
say
playing it, goddammit.
it. So yeah, pretty much Gaim contacted Taratsuru and sort of like planned it all out, that he needs to meet Aragi back in hell.
This
And
bitch
she also
planning out
warned him,
everybody's demise.
pretty much. Also, apparently, she knew that Aragi is gonna turn into a vampire eventually, just like he did in Tsuki Monogatari. So she also planned that out. So I guess guys behind everything. Nice.
Yeah,
And
it's also not stated directly, but heavily implied later that she is also the reason that Kaganui just fucked off and left Onogi behind.
there's that, but there's also, they go into it in Ogi Dark, where maybe Ogi is also responsible for like shooing away Oshino and Kagenui. It's kind of
It's left
like
really out
Guyan
in the
explains
open.
it. So yeah. Um, then Taratsuru opens up like a sort of like opening for Aragi to go out of hell, and um, pretty much sort of like tells him, "Well, off you go. You can
He has
go
to
back
ride
now."
the snake.
He has to ride the snake, um, and then
He has to say
this
goodbye to
section,
Hachikuji again.
it's so obvious, though. Come on, that's the thing. It's so obvious that he's not gonna do it. She's fucking there.
I love how like he's all prepared like to just go, and then right before he like pulls the lever and it's like gonna rise up, he's like, "Wait a minute! If
Wait
I
a minute.
go, I can't touch her boobs anymore."
I like how even right before he leaves, he like wonders if he even deserves to be like revived, and Hachiko's is like, "You fucking dumb idiot, you dumbass,
Which
you
is an
you know it's
argument that's
fine."
come up before. Like he again, it's more self doubt of his that's just it's creeping in more and more and more.
I do like his reply, though. If I'm not alive, I won't be able to to cherish little girls.
Which again is a very Koyomi thing to say.
And then basically he grabs Hachikoji again, and like
This
he
time with
leaves
his
and takes her
legs
with him.
though.
With his legs, he's so round.
Man.
And right before they leave, Tadatsuru pretty much confirms to Aragi's suspicion that Ogi's the enemy that they've been like talking about for this entire final season. And yeah, they wake up back in the shrine when Kissshot is about to murder Guyan in
I
front of
love
them.
that shot though, because like you see him rise
The
up
fucking
and the screen
nails.
kind of like goes all bright, almost like a fade to white, and then the
Yeah,
very next thing you see is like an instant cut to Shinobu with her claws out right over Guy about to fucking
that's
slice her
such a
neck
cool
open.
shot. Because the claws are like, the nails are like
Like
really fucking long
she's
as well.
pissed. Like she's absolutely fucking pissed.
So good. So I love that part. It's like, we get Kiss Shot back in all her glory. She's so hot. I love
You just
it.
like busty blondes.
Where's the lie, dude? Can you blame me? Look at her. I like that Tanjiro meme where he's like waving at Nezuko. It's like, look at her. She's so hot.
But yeah,
Uh,
and then of course we have at the very end, Araragi's like, wait a minute. I brought Hachikuji back, and she left because of the darkness. Is the darkness gonna come back?
Whoa.
And that's kind of how the arc ends.
and Garen is like, "Oh, I have a plan." It's like,
Yes.
what?
Don't worry, I have a fucking plan.
All right. Now it's time for the fucking Senjo Gahara Appreciation Society to rise up. This is what we're here for.
Yes, we are here. So yeah, that's how Maoi Hell ends. And then we go right
A
into
lot of
another.
exposition.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
But we go right into another 2 episode arc with Hitagi Rendezvous, which is, I guess you would say, a big wrap up, a bow on the romance between Araragi and Hitagi that's kind of run through the course of this series. I want to point out something. Um, I say all the time that one of my favorite anime romances is this one, and it's
agreed.
really difficult for me to explain why, because it's definitely not the focal point of this show, this anime. It's not. In fact, it's something that's very much in the background. But I think that's why I like it so much. Because
Tell
even
you
though
why I like it.
even though it only comes up like prominently a couple of times, and every so often you'll hear characters talk about like their relationship, I think the subtlety of it is what I like so much.
Yes, it's such
It's not in
an
your
overt
face.
and yeah, it's such an overt and extroverted and really self-indulgent show.
Mm.
It's kind of refreshing how much respect like these series shows to the main for all of the shenanigans that happen. When it's time for Hitagi and Araki time,
Mm.
it's
It's
wholesome. It's
yes.
awesome. It feels genuine.
Except for that
And
one
I
time she threw him on the floor and fucked him.
no, I still think that's wholesome and genuine. Fuck you.
You got to
I
admit
want that
though,
happen to me.
you got to admit though, those bedroom eyes she was given were pretty intense.
God damn, I dig it, man. I understand. I understand, man. And I'll tell you why. I think the beauty and I think why this romance works for us so well
Hmm.
is because of the steady natural growth we see of it.
Yeah,
And I think
even when
it
it's in the
does
background, you can see it like
yeah.
just steadily
And I think
growing.
that, and I think the fact that it's not the focal point is what gives it is 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 such a I think the fact it's not the focal point of the entire show
Hmm.
is what why it turned out so well because
Hmm.
it allows it to when you need a breathing room you can go back to that like sort of like storyline of their relationship. It doesn't have to be the main focus so it doesn't have to write the entire story around it.
Which is kind of what
Um
Hitagi Rendezvous is. It's a breather between
yeah,
what happened in Maoi Hell, which is kind of like the reveal
the
that there is
primer to Ogi Dark.
well, yeah, like Maoi Hell is this reveal that there has been a grand plan all along, and
Yeah.
it's like just now beginning to come to fruition. And then you have Ogi Dark, which is like the execution of like the final stage of that plan, and you have
Yeah,
Hitagi
definitely.
Rendezvous sandwiched in between that as a nice little breather, which is kind of what it is.
Yeah, and I love it so much. It's so good, dude. It's so cute. That I just so the OP for this arc is Dreamy Day Drive by Chiwa Saito, which is the voice actress for Itagi, of course.
Yeah,
I love this OP.
she has a good
If you
voice
like,
actor, you know.
apparently I heard so.
She told me herself in the anime.
The anime, crazy bitch. I love this OP. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. It has Itagi plastered all over it. I said you there's that one shot where she's like leaning on that balcony. Man, I want to go to sleep looking at that picture every night. Not gonna lie. Holy shit. It's
It's like that Ben Shapiro meme. I could look at this picture for hours.
his sister? What?
Yeah.
No. I
This
love
this
OP.
arc though starts with some beautiful Koyomi service though. We listen,
Sundara
listen,
service.
listen. We got the shower scene in season 2. Let me have this in Owari.
Bruh, the best Koyomi service was in Kizu and you know it.
You know, you're not wrong.
That pink buff dude was like whoo, and I'm straight. Uh,
Allegedly.
fuck off. So basically the entire premise of this arc is as the OP suggests, they're going on a dreamy day drive.
Mm.
Uh, um, Basically Aragi talks to Ornoki, tells her about what happened in hell. He tells her that Shinobu is right now with Gaina and Chikuji, just like forming their plan for what's to come. And
I love how monotone she responds to all of his like descriptions of hell. Wow,
wow,
that's
oh,
cool.
oh yeah, she said with a post look.
Yeah.
Um, And then she goes on to talk about like the one about Kageno, and she's like, "Oh, she probably went somewhere to perfect her martial arts." It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Um, it's what like Kageno just fucked up from the show completely. Um,
Which is
yeah.
very
Also,
convenient because she could have just like destroyed everybody.
I know, right? I like how Tsuki comes back to the room and she's like, "Oh, there's my plushie. What have you been doing to my plushie, Oni-chan?"
My God, that scene though is so funny because like they're having that conversation with each other, Ononoki and Koyomi, and then all of a sudden, right in the middle of her saying something, Ononoki just freezes and falls over like limp.
She pulls a fucking Toy Story, dude.
Yeah, I know.
Like, oh, human.
That's exactly what I thought about too the first time I saw it. Oh my God, it's just like Toy Story. And then Takatsuki, he breaks into the room, is like, "What have you been doing with my plushie?" It's my precious plushie.
She's like, I love that frame where she's holding like the fucking lifeless Ononoki. She's like, "I'm taking back my plushie."
I love that scene so much. It makes me giggle every time.
I love it. And then, like, before she goes, Tsuki is like, "Oh, I'm gonna see Nadeko, who has been released from the hospital very recently."
Yeah.
Another reminder that you fucked up, Aragi. Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. He's like, "I haven't thought about this person in a long time. I've almost gotten over this. Oh, by the way, you put her in the fucking hospital, you bitch." Oh, Jesus.
Then Aragi heads to Hitagi's place after they talked about going on a date.
On White Day.
On White Day.
Which
I didn't know White Day was a thing.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, it's exactly 1 month after Valentine's Day in Japan. So March 14th, which, fun fact, we're recording this the day after White Day in 2023.
Oh, shit. Ooh, maybe it was planned all along, you know? I wasn't sick. I was waiting for White Day.
Yeah, that's how that works. But yeah, the date is cool. We find out that Hitagi has secretly gotten her driver's license.
The shock on Aragi's face was like, "You have a car?"
Just like that. And who are you? What have you done with my Hitagi?
And then my favorite bit of the entire arc. Hitaki Driver Gahara.
Yes, Driver Gahara. That little cutaway is so cool.
That cutaway of her like in the sport gear, the racing gear.
They're racing out, overalls, yeah.
Okay, perfect, man. I don't need anything else in my life after that. She pretty much explains how while Aragi was like working on his exams and preparing for finals, she just on a whim decided to go get a driver's license because also she realized because of his vampirism, he couldn't take a picture for the driver's license, and because he doesn't have a reflection, so she was planning according to that. So she thought it would be better for her to get a driver's license, which was smart.
It's also kind of a cute gesture if you think about it.
Yeah, because Itagi is cute and wonderful, and she wouldn't stab you with a pencil. Like, who would do such a thing, you know?
No.
So as part of their date, they're driving to the planetarium.
Which whatever happened to planetariums? Like no one, they're not around anymore.
They're still around. I haven't been to one in
me either.
A long time. Maybe we should go on a date to a planetarium, you know?
Natai, you already have a girlfriend.
I was thinking of a joke and I didn't have any end to any good punchline, so I fucking.
You had the setup but no punchline. It's just like watching AI Seinfeld.
Bro, no, we're not gonna go.
No, we're not going down that rabbit hole.
We're not gonna go into it. But then that fucking so they're driving the car to the planetarium, and that fucking. This is a pen joke. Would you mind?
Okay.
My mind was blown. I forgot about this.
So, this is a pen is something that they mention because Hitagi was talking to Hanakawa. Because one of the things that's brought up is like, through the run of this entire final season is like, where the fuck is Meme? Where the fuck did he go?
Pretty much.
And Hanakawa's been like in her little like jaunt around the world trying to find herself, I guess. She's
And
also
Meme alongside
yeah,
along the
she's
way.
trying to find Meme. And Hitagi misunderstands something that Hanakawa says during a phone call as this is a pen. And I guess so for those who don't know, in Japanese English like classes, it's one of the very first English sentences you learn. This is
That's
a
so
pen.
funny. This is a pen.
uh, because as short and as like concise as a sentence as that is, there are 4 individual parts of speech that you can analyze in that one sentence. So it's a really good start, and it
Japanese.
being very simple, it's easy to understand and translate, but it's also like there's a lot to analyze there when you're first learning English.
Right.
But I forget because it's been like 3 or 4 weeks since I've watched this, but I forget exactly what the thing that she
this pen this PT I literally just watched it. Pretty much it's like something that sounds like a word that explains the location.
Which we find out later it's Antarctica.
Yeah. It's pretty much that, which is like such a instant thing to do, to take this fucking this is a pen and confuse it with whatever. I'm looking it up right now because I just saw it. But yeah, pretty much Itagi talks about how Anakawa like is going around the world, and she mentioned something about this is a.
I remember.
No shit, you remember?
I do. So
mad lad.
So what I think this is revealed in the second episode, but what it's revealed that Hanakawa actually said was despaiement, which is a French word, means change of scenery.
That flew. We were DMing about this over Discord. I was like, what the fuck does that even mean? And then when you explained to me, I'm like, oh.
Yeah, she says despaiement, which kind of, if you hear it over the phone and someone's saying it rather quickly, I mean, I guess it could sound like this is a pin.
Yeah. Very confusing.
Yeah.
But it's like. It's cute. I like it. I like that sort.
But if you think about it, like when you find out that he's been in Antarctica, a change of scenery, that would be a huge change of scenery.
That's quite a change of scenery,
compared to anything he's gonna find in Japan. But that is a crazy like 3-language fucking wordplay right there.
Yeah, fucking needs to, isn't man. Basically, they keep like talking about how Hanakawa started learning geoscience. Pretty fucking cool. That's a very
it's what she wants to major in when she goes to college is geoscience. Which it's a really nice little window into, I guess, her interests,
personality, which goes back to her fucking Owarimonogatari, where she takes him to her favorite spot, which is where she sees the stars and like she talks about all the constellation. It's so cute.
Which I was thinking about that. Wouldn't it make more sense for her to want to get into astronomy?
So she talks about she wanted to be an astronaut when she was a kid. She mentions that. So maybe that's why from young age she was fascinated with that whole thing. Maybe it's also like a metaphor to how she wanted to get away from her abuse and the thing that happened in her household.
I like the way you
writing people, am I right? She also mentioned this like fun tidbit where it's like, in order to draw a space map, you need like a diagram that depicts the universe in the shape of a fan, and the fan is Ogi.
Ogi.
And then it cuts to Aragi falling asleep in the planetary and dreaming about Ogi, which sort of like is the main. We enter the main sort of like conversation dump, you could call it.
A huge conversation dump.
Yeah, between Ogi and Aragi.
And it kind of, I don't want to go over all of it because we could be here for 5 hours explaining what they talk about, but it essentially is Ogi talking to Koyomi about how a lot of the constellations and the story behind how they came to be resemble his actual life story over the last year or so.
Pretty much, which is like pretty cool, but it's a lot, man. It's a lot.
Yeah. Like I said, it's a lot to
There's
analyze.
no need to go over it because there's so much in it, but like it is really cool. It's like they go sort of like talk about how like how some of these constellations are overlapping and combined each other to become different constellations. It's like it's really neat stuff. Like I really dig it. But yeah, let's not go into because it's so much of it.
And I also like how near the end of it, Koyomi just looks at her and says, "Man, I'm so you know a lot. I'm impressed." And she's like, "You know this shit too." And he's like, "Wait, what?"
Hint?
Hint?
It's just Araki has shit memory as usual, right?
Yeah.
Basically, and then they sort of mention and go back to talking about Tadatsuru and sort of like they talk about like all these curses that happen when you revive someone because they talk about how do you pronounce it? Asclepius? Because in Hebrew we pronounce it differently. The physician.
Oh,
how do you pronounce it in English? I never got it right.
Oh Jesus, how do you say his name? That's a great question.
I think in Hebrew we call it Asclepius.
Ophiuchus. Ophiuchus is how we say it roughly how we say it in English or / Greek.
Pretty much, long story short, they talk about how he revived the dead, and then Ogi is like, oh, like Tadatsura and Kaginu also revived the dead person to
also why in modern day this like the universal symbol for like medical professionals has a snake wrapped around a pole.
The staff, that's right. It's from Greek mythology.
Because in the Greek mythology, not only was he a healer, he was a snake charmer.
Yeah, that's like he walked around with like a staff that had 2 snakes on it, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, then she circles back to Tadatsura and Kagenu reviving Ononoki, and she was like, "Oh, I wonder," like, and then she was like they revived Ononoki, like, and now you were revived. That's kind of interesting. And then Araki is like, "Hold up, Tadatsura did warn me that she's the enemy. Hold on."
That good Koyomi memory coming in clutch.
In his dreamscape, am I right? Yeah. So moving on, she talks on about like warning Araki about all mistakes needs to be like punished, and how like things usually zero themselves out, even themselves out. Like when you do make a mistake, you need to be punished for it, and so like there needs to be again a balance that she believes that needs to happen. Going back to Mayoi Hell.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much how it goes on and on. And by the end of the dream, she's like asking him to like do the right thing and talk to her next time that he sees Ogi. When he wakes up, I like that bit where he wakes up and he's looking to the side on that like big pillow or couch that they're on, and noticed that Hitagi was also asleep. That shit's that boring.
Hitagi's like, I wasn't asleep. I was just resting my eyes.
Tsundere service back at it again.
Yeah, but then they continue their date after that, and it's cute. It's cute.
I love the astronaut costume that they are in. And I love the different games that they go to, the bowling game where she's like, I'm gonna kick your ass, and then he like wins by like a point over her. She's like, God fucking damn it. And she's all the time she's like, well, the loser has to do whatever the winner tells her to do, and she's like very confident about it with the bowling game. And what was the other game that they went on to do? I don't remember, but like
I can't remember either.
That's what like comes up again and again whenever they go out and do like a different activity. Um,
Oh, it
and then
was
they go and have
karaoke. They went to karaoke.
it was karaoke, dude. I popped so fucking hard when they're in the karaoke. When they enter, it plays Platinum Disco at the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
and then when Hitagi is about to go and sing, it plays the second Hitagi OPM,
Yes.
Totome from Nisa. I popped so fucking hard for that. I was like, yeah,
Yeah,
I love
boy.
that shit.
Um,
Oh,
I didn't know there was like karaoke games out there you could play where they rate how good you are at singing the song.
bruh. I don't. I'm glad we didn't have that shit in Washington. That would have been
Oh,
rough.
we would have been fucked.
Bro, I lost my voice halfway through the second song. What are you talking about?
I like the thing that Koyomi asks though. It's like, all right, well, you got to walk arm in arm with me, and it's like, oh, it's so cute.
It's so cute.
Uh,
It's such a degenerate and dirty show. You have like the most wholesome romance
I
in anime.
know.
So cute. Uh, also when she asks him to when he carries her like a princess to the car, it's like,
Yes.
God damn it, this fucking show. And then when they're on the way back after this entire date, and so we pretty much also they have tea together.
Which
I
is also
liked it.
really cute. They also have that
Yeah,
conversation where Koyomi's like kind of relaying some of the stuff that's recently happened, and Hitagi just like
keep her up
throws
to
out
date.
there, "Have you considered that you might be the enemy?" And then Koyomi has like the oh shit look on his face. What?
She's like, huh? Are we the bad guys?
Are we the baddies?
Are we the baddies? And then on the way back, Aragi is like, ah, shit, I wasn't able to like get a present for you or something for this date, but like I'll pay with interest.
And then she
And
just
Itagi just
immediately
bullies
goes
him.
full bully.
She's full bully. She's like, oh, what a fucking bad boyfriend, not buying anything for me for a present for this date. Like, oh. And then he's like, please, I'm sorry, I'll do whatever you want. I'll do whatever you want.
And then no,
she,
hold on. We get the best scene, not one of the best scenes in the entire series, in my opinion, but also like this absolute culmination in their romance. Like, forget getting fucked on Valentine's Day. Like, I'm sure that was great.
that has
Koyomi,
nothing on what's about to come.
but it's nothing about what's happened. She looks at him and with the most like sincere look on her face says, "I want you to call me by my name." And then he says, "But I call you Shinjigahara all the time." And she says,
you fucking idiot.
"No, my first name." And then there's like that pause, and he looks at her like, "Do I really need to do this?" And then he just says, "Okay, Hitagi." And then she just looks at him and goes, "Thank you so much, Koyomi." And I'm like, oh,
and the crowd roars.
Yes,
and the crowd rejoices.
Yes,
and everyone lost their collective shit.
Oh my god, that scene.
Show.
This kind of shit right here is why it's my favorite romance, I think.
Definitely, it's so satisfying to go back to Bake and just see the progression. Again, that fucking slow and steady progression along the way to see that like because you have these so many small moments throughout the show where you see how they so like grow together as people and as a couple, and it's so satisfying. And this right here is fucking perfection.
I'll tell you exactly how satisfying it is to me. One of my absolute favorite anime romances ever is Snafu. I know it's one of yours too. I was as satisfied by this scene as I was by the end of Snafu.
I totally get it, man. I totally get it.
It's not even Snafu is a fucking romance. Monogatari is not even a romance.
It's this is how fucking good the character writing is in this show. This fucking romance is like everything. It's so good, dude. It's so. I go back to the word satisfying because, like, in general, this whole season is very satisfying, and this arc sort of like pays homage to the romance side of the show.
Yeah, for sure.
Beautifully. I love that. I love this so much.
For sure.
Oh, it's god damn! I want to go back and watch this scene not right now. Um,
But then as great as that is, the date does end.
Unfortunately,
Koyomi goes back to his house, and who should be there but Ogi?
Spooky
But Spooky
Oogie,
Yugi. And
Spooky
and
Oogie.
it's almost like she knows the jig is up, or is about to be up, and she's just like
The
makes
lighting,
one final appeal to Koyomi.
the lighting in this thing is fucking awesome. Like the whole like how the scene is presented,
Mm,
where it's completely black, aside from like a few street lights that like light
mm.
very. It's so cool. I don't know how to describe it better, but I love how this scene looks. Where it's like pitch black. You have these like different lights that illuminate the scene, but it's like very, 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 very black.
It
Yeah,
sets a good scene just very visually. It sets a really
yeah,
like almost
yeah,
ominous tone to the
yeah.
scene. Um,
Ominous. Kaiki.
Taiki.
Sorry. So yeah, basically, Ogi is like she's like she's like she mentions the fact that she sort of like bothered Aragi during his date. Um
It wasn't a
and
dream after all. It was a
It
vision.
wasn't a dream, or was it a dream? Who knows? And pretty much like Aragi is like talking about how Ogi has been trying to like whether it's harm him or people around him or maybe even kill them. It's
Mm,
like what the fuck is going on? He's like you've been doing a lot of shit lately. He's like actually confronting her about everything that's been happening so far in the show. Um and she like she's like she basically like not necessarily denying him but denies him, but she's like talks about how like she warns him about falling for like Guy's tricks and manipulation because I mean even though like Guy is a master manipulator, let's be honest, like she manages to get everyone to do whatever she wants aside from Kaiki and Aragi basically.
yeah.
um and she tells him I'm not the darkness, which is interesting because it's sort of like
It's
because
been a running
it's a,
question about her since she was
it's been
introduced.
a theory. Yeah, I kind of wish I was there back when the show was airing
Mm,
to sort of see what the speculations were like, because it's like I do wonder if that like when she flat out says, "Oh, I'm not the darkness," it's sort of like to poke fun at some of the viewers who were theorizing that.
mm.
Um, and then the whole arc ends when she walks away and she's like asking Aragi, "Please help me," which goes back to that sort of thesis about helping yourself and helping. We'll see where that goes.
It's almost like
And
the entire fucking show has been about this from the beginning.
it's really cool that that's how the arc ends with someone asking Aragi to
Help
help
me.
him, to save him,
Help me.
and help me, Scar, help me. And
Yeah,
now we arrive at
that's Hitagi
yeah.
Rendezvous. That's how that ends. And we arrive with the final arc of Owarimonogatari, Ogi Dark.
Ooh,
Oh,
it's a big chunky arc.
it's a chunky arc.
We've been blazing through the past two arcs, but don't like there's so much shit that happens in them that
Yeah,
we're like, let's get going. And this
yeah.
arc is even longer. It's like 3 episodes.
It's 3 episodes, but it feels like
And
it's
you're
like 10.
stacked.
uh,
Did you watch the Crunchyroll edit where they like compress all of like each arc into like a long
I did
episode?
not. I watched the Blu-ray versions.
Interesting. All right.
Um, but this arc does give us a new OP, Dark Cherry Mystery, which is sung by Ogi's voice actor Kaori Mizuhashi.
I love this OP.
I do
I
too.
love it a lot.
I definitely think it's underrated OP in terms of like the Monogatari fandom.
Yep.
It's very
Visually very striking.
it's visually striking, but also the song is deceptively happy.
Yeah, but it's very like it so there's like so many lines in the song about how this is the end of a story. This is the like it's like they even acknowledge how it's the end of a story in the song
That's why I
itself.
say it's deceptively happy because the music makes it sound happy. The lyrics
Yeah.
do not.
Did not reflect, not at all. I love that sort of contrast.
It's like
which
it's kind
is
of like the Outcast song "Hey Ya," which it sounds like a really happy upbeat song. If you listen to the lyrics, it's not at all.
or pumped up kicks.
Pumped up kicks.
Yeah, that's a I love songs that can sort of play with that. But it's very appropriate for Ogi because she's such a goofy looking goofy looking character, but
Gosh.
she's gosh, Max, gosh.
Stop.
But she's. I'm sorry, the goof is coming
The
out.
goofy took over you.
The goof. But she's such a goofy character, but she seems like that, but underneath there's like darkness in there, you know. And
Darkness.
I love how the OP also reflects that. Like you have these like very wacky like actions that happen, like when she sort of like tumbles down, she falls on her head, or there's like this moment when the bicycle launches and you see Oki in the back of like a rocket like going by. It's a very weird OP, but that like the sort of like the core of it, like the Ogi and Dark Ogi sort of like colliding all the time with each other. I love that imagery. It's
Mm.
And when you realize what it's about, it's like, oh, it's very cool.
The I wanna point out something we haven't mentioned. Well, actually, no. I'll talk about it when we get a little further in because you don't see it until further into this arc. But there is another Nisio Isin haircut that happens in this arc.
That is true. That is very true. That is very true. We will get to that very soon. Yeah. So the plan is being laid out. Aragi.
The first like episode and a half is literally just the entire plan that's about to go down being laid out
in thorough details.
In very
aside
thorough
from one detail that goes back. We go back to at the end of the arc.
It's also funny how throughout the course of them laying out this plan, which is it's at the park where from Bakemonogatari, where Hachikuji first meets Koyomi. But you have Hachikuji, Shinobu, Gaia, and Koyomi all there, all talking about this plan that's about to go down. And throughout the course of it, you actually see flashes back to like Bake to Nise to.
You have like also so throughout these conversations, because of course they all talk all the time. So it cuts away to Aranoki and Hachikuji like fucking goofing around, and you have this part where they're like on these like weird bicycles like riding around, which is definitely a callback to Bake when Itagi and Araragi sort of like were bicycling around these like weird structures when they were talking. Really cool detail. Also, I popped hard to Shinobu or Kiss Shot like holding Araragi as if he was a plushie.
Oh my god, with her arms just locked around him, and he's
I was like Denji in that moment. It's like, oh, hug me.
You don't want to be stepped on by Shinobu, you just want to be hugged.
I popped fucking hard to Shinobu, or rather Kiss Shot in full form, hugging Aragula as if he was like a plushie or something. And he's looking depressed as fuck, but I love that part so much.
Unlike Denji, you don't want to be stepped on, you just want to be hugged.
It's like Denji in episode 1 where he like sees Maki, it's like, hug me.
That scene is pretty good. I just like visually how that scene looks. Not only do you have the nice cutaways with people doing all kinds of crazy shit, especially like the baseball motif. They
is it baseball or is it cricket?
Cricket, baseball, it's fucking whatever. I don't care.
Sorry, keep going.
No, I just visually I like the motif because it's like you have a set of goals that they have to do in sequence, which whether it's cricket or baseball, the analogy is the same.
That's very true. Also, I like how at first the scene is framed as if they're like all sitting across from each other, but then it pulls back. It's like them all backs against each other in this like center of the park. You know, it's like there's something I thought it was neat. You know.
Yeah. I also like that during this whole conversation, there is a part where Guyan literally explains in a single line the whole crux of the Monogatari series. So do you remember the line?
Which line was it? I don't remember.
Okay, so while they're holding each like they're talking about it, and we have Hachikuji off by her fucking self. We have Ononoki, who has showed up, who is being held by Guyan like a fucking plushie, and we have Koyomi being held by Kiss Shots.
That's right.
So the line is from Guyan: "Go win a battle against yourself. It's rather simple, isn't it? Killing yourself for the sake of others. It's something you do every day. Araragi Koyomi is the person you loathe the most, and so you have to put it into it. By your own hands, you have to end it. That will be the end of your youth." It's the whole point of the Monogatari series.
Yeah, that's pretty much the whole point.
In a single line.
Yeah. Yeah. That whole thing with like the end of adolescence and youth, it's like as you go further and further in this arc, you're like, oh yeah, it's like this shit is about growing up, I guess, and which is very, very appropriate because like the entire point of the show was how people grow past their like own, whether it be traumas or self doubts or whatever. So just like realizing themselves, because that's like, at least I want to believe, is how you manage to become an adult to some extent.
Yeah.
So we pretty much get another information dump about how 400 years ago, there was used to be a shrine at the park, but then Kishot arrived, demolished it. But because of the way she did it, like the lake that the shrine was, sort of gave like it poured rain for like this like village that was like suffering from drought for like so many years.
Yeah.
She became sort of a god, and like they worshipped her for so many years. But then after she left, like the locals sort of like merged with another religion that moved the temple to the top of the mountain, which was alluded to in Owarimonogatari, which is cool. Fast forward a few hundred years, the shrine still sort of managed to stay there, even though it was sort of like corrupted because of like the merger of the religions or whatever, until the ashes of the first servant sort of showed up back in its homeland, and like set the whole series in motion, you could say.
Yeah.
Which is like another way of sort of like tying a bow around the entire show to some extent. I liked it, actually.
Yeah, and like the whole part of of Gaian's plan is that shrine doesn't really have a god anymore. So Gaian wants to enshrine,
to balance the whole thing.
Yeah, Gaian wants to enshrine Hachikuji there as a god.
Yeah. At first, she wanted it to be Shinobu, but because Aragi pulled Hachikuji with him, it sort of like worked out in the end. They talk about how there's like this whole thing with the three-way deadlock, where it's like, was it it was a snake, a frog, and a snail, like a three-way fight between the three. And she talks about how a snail is like stronger than a snake, and like it goes again. Nishio Yusin likes to play with like the animal, like sort of like iconography of the thing. It's like, it's pretty cool. I like it. So Hachikuji is being chosen as the next goddess for the shrine. So I guess Hachikuji is now a god.
Yeah, great,
pretty sweet. Also, they sort of wonder that, like, again, back to Ogi, that they need to exterminate her. Guy wants to exterminate her. She's very specific about that word, and she's like, she worries that Ogi might sort of try and harm Hachikuji, and again try and disrupt the whole balance they're trying to maintain in the city. And again, Aragi just wants the town to be peaceful and his friends and family to be safe. So he's like pondering what to do if he wants to go with it, even though it's very, very hurtful to him to hear someone try and exterminate Ogi, because for all the shit she's done, he still cares about her, you know?
Yeah. I also like how they start to relate the experience. Well, Gaian relates the experiences she had with her own sister when she created the fake darkness, which ended up kind of killing her in a way.
Yeah. And that goes to sort of like the whole revelation that they're about to reveal in this arc very near the end. But they sort of come to the conclusion that Gan reveals that Ogi is not what she says she is. She's not a regular person. It's a fake identity, and that she's actually a monster. She's just a regular apparition.
I like how
she's an ordinary monster.
They kind of ended on a pseudo cliffhanger where they're about to say who the real identity of Ogi is, and then like boom, cut.
And then it cuts to, of all people, fucking Nadeko and Tsuki. God fucking damn it.
Tsukihi is like at Nadeko's house while she's like shading her manga that she's working on, and we see really the Nishio Yusin haircut that I mentioned.
I've got to say, I'm sorry, I get it. The new series in haircut, she doesn't look as good. Just
No,
saying.
I'll
Just
be
saying.
honest. Like it's not as shall we
That
say
forehead, man.
it's not how should I say smooth as a transition, as it was like with Hanakawa or
Yeah.
Hitagi, but it is definitely a Nisio Isin haircut.
Did you notice what Tsuki was wearing?
Yes, she was wearing the outfit that Kaden wore in Nise.
Yeah, because Karen said she stole Tsuki's clothes, which are that's a shame they're a bit small on her. So it's a funny callback. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I did too.
Um, so basically like the two like Tsuki sort of talks about how she's kind of jealous to some extent of Nadeko for like having dreams and like goals she's wishing to accomplish, because for Tsuki she's more about like living her own life and like being satisfied with the life she's living from day to day, and like she doesn't have any major goals right now. She's like, oh, like my sister's about to go to high school, Aragi's going to college, like she like the Fire Sisters are breaking up to some extent. She's like, but she doesn't have any goals in mind. I think
Which
it was
is
a cool window to
appropriate
her
for her
character.
being the Phoenix.
Yeah, pretty much. Apparition.
Yeah.
Cut to Spooky Oogie.
Yeah, so yeah, well, you got Ogi is waiting outside the Araragi residence, and
No, it was
Tsukihi,
Nadeko's house.
huh? Or excuse me, Nadako's house rather. Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
like, hey, you're Koyomi's sister, right? Yeah.
We just met the other day. We just met the and Tsuki's like, no, we didn't.
Fucking gaslighting Tsukihi.
He's like, I don't think we met. It's like,
It's
ah,
like,
sure. Want to go home?
yeah,
Sure.
I'm on my bike. You want to hop on the back of my bike? I'll take you home. You don't have to walk. And like, don't talk to strangers, kids.
Especially strange people that you don't see their hands because of their sleeves. Like,
And they don't have irises.
Very true.
One thing I do like about this whole scene, because we get like a really long protracted scene of Ogi and well, I like the T posing too. We got obviously Tsukihi on the back of the bike T posing the entire time. I like that the color palette of the scene shifts from like color, like the very vibrant colors of Nadeko's home, to just instantly black and white when Ogi's around.
And the moment like Tsuki goes out of the house, it like the music cuts out completely. Like,
it becomes almost like a horror movie.
Yeah, the horror framing of it is like it's so good, so fucking good.
Yeah.
So basically, like Ogi sort of like sort of bugs Tsuki about like her plans for the future, and do you even have a future? And she's sort of like alluding to like they're sort of like circle back to what happened in Nisei when Tsuki fucking died almost because they were attacked. Basically, she's like bugging her about like her future and does she even have a future and what she wants to do, and she's trying to sort of like confront Tsuki about who she is. Like she's trying to like confront her about the fact that she's not a real person, she's an apparition, because if she sort of like comes to the conclusion she's not a real person, maybe something bad will happen. And then like Tsuki says something interesting that like she talks about how like again goals and whatnot, and Tsuki's like it's fine because we can just like live and that's good enough. And then Ogi is like says that something along the lines of like the two of them are monsters that they only should live alone because they are monsters. Again, confronting the fact that the two of them are like apparitions. And then they take a detour to the cram school. Goku's like, oh, I'm lost. Oh no. And go to the cram school.
That bitch was planning that all along.
Oh, definitely. Then they have this like short sort of like rant about like mystery novels. And Ogi is like, oh, the moment you know who's the perpetrator who did it, you sort of like lose the charm of it. And then Tsuki is like, no, like that's a twist, but then you can get a twist after that. It's still exciting. It's not only about the chase. I guess Nisio is like sharing his frustration with mystery novels of Agatha Christie or something.
It's I kind of agree though that like sometimes even though you got the who like the who done it of a mystery, story, sometimes the why can be
The
just
chase
as
is
fun
better
to
than
figure
the
out as the who.
destination. Like the chase is better than destination or something like
Well,
that.
sometimes the why is better than the who.
I can see that. It depends. Like I thought Knives Out was awesome all the way through. Just saying.
uh, um, yeah, that kind of, I won't say where it all began because the cram school really wasn't the beginning of it, but like
To some extent.
to
Yeah.
some extent we're kind of back at the beginning with the cram
Yeah.
school, and you feel like
Fucking Aragi takes the Yoshino pose when so Tsuki and Ogi sort of like they like go off to the separate ways, and Ogi knows what's up. She goes upstairs and she see Aragi in the Oshino pose. It's like, it's so cool.
yeah, yeah, you get the sense that Ogi knows that like this is it. Like what's about to happen is gonna decide like her fate. So she actually sends Tsukihi away, and you see her kind of go away on the bike. I was half expecting the first time I saw that to her just get on the bike, start T-posing, and just go. Like she wouldn't even hold the handlebars, just T-pose and go.
So yeah, Ogi is and Aragi are having the conversation of the arc. Basically, this is it. Um, Aragi talks about he was like, so what were you doing with my sister? And she flat out says, I didn't get to finish the job. And he understanding that she was trying to sort of again make Tsuki realize that she's an apparition, and he says like the golden rule that another thing can be destroyed by disclosing their true identity.
Yeah.
Which again would probably make the darkness appear or something and then cause them to vanish.
Because
very dark.
the darkness is essentially like they actually kind of talk about the darkness. Gaian and Koyomi, Kishot, Ononoki, they kind of have a discussion about like the nature of the darkness. It's essentially a balancing force. Anytime an apparition gets like too powerful or learns its true identity, the darkness comes to swallow it up, because like in that instance, it would be an apparition could become so powerful that it can consume and destroy everything.
Yep. Very much like Ogi's whole like mission for like correcting things that are wrong, which is very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So pretty much like, so that's what Ogi was trying to do basically with Tsuki, sort of like make her realize what's her true identity, to sort of like get rid of her, which is very, very, very
And her
dark.
identity is Natai?
She's a phoenix.
No, not Tsukihi. Ogi.
Oh, and then that leads to the twist. The twist.
The question that we've been asking ever since she was introduced. Who the fuck is Ogi?
She's Aragi.
She's Aragi.
M. Night Shyamalan out of the corner. What a twist.
What a twist. Yeah, she's a manifestation of Koyomi's like own self-doubt and regret.
That the moment where Aragi is like, the thing is, you are me. It's like, whoa! Such a fucking well-delivered line. It's like, it's so simple, but it's like, it puts everything into place.
And the fact that she looks at him like with almost like a smile, like she's almost trying to hide like a laugh while she does it. It's like, oh, you figured it out.
Realize now.
And then the second she says that, the darkness just appears behind her.
And then we get a flashback back to the war room, you could say, where pretty much Gain explains to Aragi her thesis that Ogi is Aragi's apparition, and basically she goes through so basically what she's suggesting, that after Aragi's like encounter with the darkness the first time and having to let go of Mayoi, that sort of self-doubt and regret sort of start to like consume him, and that led to Ogi being born,
which mirrors Toei Gaian's the way she created the Rainy Devil.
Yep, pretty much. And which then leads to a very convoluted explanation, because if you remember in Shinobu, you had that weird like Rainy Devil with the crab hand and the thing and whatnot. So their explanation for that was that sort of apparition contacted Kanbaru, so that's why they got the rainy hand, and then they're like, it's it's very, very, very convoluted the way they go about explaining that mixed separation.
Hmm.
This is the second time I watched this arc, and it made a bit more sense now.
Mm-hmm.
But what I did find interesting is like the reason they, and I missed out on my first watch, is the reason why Ogi Shinobu, Ogi Oshino, is not because of Meme, but because of Shinobu
Mm.
apparently,
Yeah.
because she contacted what was it, the moment when Shinobu ate the armor. That's sort of how like made contact back to like Ogi's apparition being created. It's very, very confusing. I'm not
It's
gonna lie,
yeah.
but like
It's there's a lot going on in a very short span of time here.
I think that's like my only sort of complaint with this arc. It's like there's only so much time, so they're trying to cram as much information they can, so like tie everything up very neatly.
And I feel like maybe having the last episode be a little longer than the rest of them might have helped.
Yeah, but it's like it is what it is.
Yeah.
Um, so basically, yeah. So as you said, the darkness shows up right behind Ogi, and and I like how Ogi is like, I feel like I made your adolescence more correct, uh, even if she couldn't make it better. It's like that's kind of a sad sentiment
Yeah.
to go out on.
But then, but then, in true
Then it
Koyomi
happens.
fashion, what happens?
Aragi is like, he sees, and I love how it's framed where like the tables are flowing back into the darkness, and slowly like the whole scenery is falling apart. The animation or like the concrete falling apart and like
Yeah.
being sucked into the darkness is amazing. And Aragi just can't fucking help himself being fucking Aragi. Just lunges forward and just like, like saves her from
Like
getting
pins her down to
swallowed
the
by the
ground
darkness.
so she won't like fly away. And of course, he does this at great personal risk because it ends up like severing one of his arms. And remember, he's not a vampire anymore.
He's a human.
He's a
He can
human.
regenerate.
He will not
And
regenerate.
then
That blood loss is very real.
I need to gush about Ogi's voice acting because holy shit, this is the first time we hear her sort of like sound almost human like when she's like, she can't compute. She's like, why are you doing this? Why are you trying to save me after all the shit I've done? And he tells her that she hurt so many people. And even though she feels justified with like the case of Nadeko about, she was like, oh, I was right about doing that. Uh, she still hurt so many people, not necessarily rightfully so.
Hmm.
And she like breaks. She's like, why are you doing this? Why are you trying to help me? And he's fucking Araragi. He has to help her, and he says it. It's like, I have to save you because I tried to save myself. It's like,
And
it's all
what
coming
have we
together.
said from the very beginning what this show is about?
The whole thing that fucking Meme said from day one.
Yes.
You can't. You just you. People have to save themselves. People can't save others. They have to save themselves. Can't
Perfect.
expect someone else to save you. It's poetry. It rhymes.
It's like poetry. They sort of rhyme. The George Lucas School of Writing.
And right as the darkness is about to swallow them, who shows up?
Our boy Meme.
Our boy and best girl are showing up.
I like how the first person
Bro,
you actually see is Hanekawa, and you see her like completely out of breath. She runs around the corner. It's like,
I win.
I win, and then she just like kind of falls over, and then Meme just appears like, boom, I'm back, bitches.
And Meme does the chattest thing. Is like, it's like, oh, that's my niece right there. What are you doing to my niece? Like,
What are your intentions with my niece, Koyomi?
Something good happened to you? It's like fucking Meme. First time I watched this arc, I was like, I got out of my couch. I was like, oh, it's Meme.
Oh man,
What a fucking awesome return. And the darkness vanishes because someone else acknowledged Ogi as like a real person. And like that's kind of beautiful how like she is Aragi's self-hate and self-deprecation and self-doubt, but by the end of it she's like her own person.
and
She's
someone else acknowledged the fakery of her. That's why the darkness goes away. because the darkness was convinced, and rightly so, that Ogi was pretending to be something that she's not. When someone else acknowledged the fakeness that she had created, like the fake identity that she had created for herself,
it vanished
away. And that harkens back to something that Kaiki said in his arc, that fakes are more valuable than the real thing.
God fucking damn it, this fucking show, dude. It's so good. This moment right here is why this show is one of my favorite shows of all time. It's not even close, dude. It's this right here.
It's great.
The deal for this entire show.
It's great. And that's the climax of the Monogatari series. Like that's it.
It's so perfect. It's such a perfect climax.
It works so well.
It just works.
It just, in the words of Todd the God Howard, it just works. But that's not even it's not even the end, because we get this nice little epilogue that comes after it, with Araragi
basically
on the way to his graduation ceremony.
Yeah, they sort of tie up all some of the loose ends. Like Shinobu and Aragi go back to being like have this bond between each other. They're like, so he's back to being half vampire, half person, and she's back.
And
to being
she's also back being a loli.
Yeah, because of course. And Aragi on his way back to school is sort of like, he sees Hachikuji and they sort of talk about how she's being a goddess. He's like, oh, I'll come and visit your shrine every now and then. And it's like, and then yeah, he sort of, and I love that part where they're like, when they're like hugging each other and they say the same thing to say all the time. When he's like, if you died tomorrow, I'd be happy to die with you again. I don't want to spend another day without you.
Yeah.
And Shinobu says that if you die tomorrow, I'll die 3 days later because I have to tell the story of the great man that you were. It's like, my heart. So good. And then Aragi is back at school. He sees Hanekawa and Hitagi right before the ceremony, and fucking and when he mentions Sanjogara by her first name, Hitagi, and Hanekawa's like, "What happened when I wasn't around?"
I like that look. She goes like, "Ho ho ho."
Oh. And when Sanjogara shows up, and so Hanekawa's like, "Oh, Hitagi, how are you?" And she's like, "Stop it,
stop it, get some help." I love that little scene though. It's so cute, and it's like a nice little like bow with Hanekawa as well, like on her story. Because like, you know that she still has these feelings deep down for Koyomi, but she's gonna be okay. She's gonna be okay.
She'll find a really good man, and she's gonna be happy, and she'll be fine.
Nah, she's gonna bang Kanbaru. What are you talking about?
Okay. Kanbaru's gonna bang everyone. Let's be honest.
That's true.
And then we get that final scene with Ogi when she talks about how Aragi hasn't changed even one bit, and he's just like, and Aragi is talking about that he's changing, but no matter what, he's still gonna be himself. It's like sort of like embraced who he is, and he's now becoming an adult finally. It's like, God damn, man.
And then like fucking clockwork, as they're walking down the hall, they see a student like that we've never seen before, and it's very obvious that she's afflicted with an oddity. And he looks back because he's walking at that time. He's walking with both Hanekawa and with and Hitagi, and they're on their way to the graduation ceremony. And like he lets the student runs past them down the stairs, and he kind of does this little look back over his shoulder, and then both Hanekawa and Hitagi look at each other and then look at him, and they're like, "Go,
sure,
go. We know what you got to do." And that's how it ends. And I was like, wow.
What a fucking good ending, dude.
And then like the last little bit of it right before the credits roll is it's Shinobu doing a little narration about how like
she still remains in his shadow. It's like, this is the story of how his adolescence ended. And it's like,
it's about like she says, it's like it's the end of one life and the beginning of another, and it's a great sentiment. I love it.
This fucking ending, man, is so good, dude. It's like I gave this season a 10 because I feel like it wrapped up so neatly everything I love about Monogatari, and it's like that twist just puts everything in place. You know, it's like that twist does make the whole show even better in hindsight for me because it's all come together now. It's fucking beautiful, dude.
It
Like that
is.
sentiment. They actually full on went circle back to that sentiment of the only one who can save you is yourself, and took that thesis to its
Extreme.
extreme, right? Which is what we got with this climax between Ogi and Aragi, and it's
100%.
fucking beautiful, man.
It's great when writing is this good.
I know, right? It's really nice.
I know we're talking about this like the end, and by the title of it, Owarimonogatari, literally end story. You'd think this was the end.
The end when I first watched it a few years ago, but then it's like we still got more.
Yeah. We do have Zoku Owarimonogatari to do, and that will be our last, or at least currently, unless Shaft decides to do more anime, it will be our last Monogatari spoiler cast.
I'm excited. It's gonna be my first time watching it. We're getting to new territory for me.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. It'll only be my second time watching it, so we'll have maybe two different perspectives on what we see.
Yeah,
because as we've gone through this, you and I have both said like it's amazing with rewatches, new stuff that you see in the Monogatari series.
Definitely.
I do want to ask, because not to spoil anything for Zoku just yet, but it is kind of like an alternate universe kind of story.
Okay.
I want to get your like impressions on the Monogatari series as a whole from this point, because as far as the main story of Monogatari goes, this is the end.
Yeah.
So like overall, what do you think? Like, how do you think this stacks up in like the annals of anime history?
It's crazy to me how it's been like, so Owari second season came out in 2015 if I'm not mistaken.
2017.
And 2017. It's been 6 years or so, and I still haven't seen back from Owari came out 6 years, even longer than the rest of the show. Fucking Baka came out in, was it
2009?
9, right? I still haven't seen anything like it. Nothing like, not even anime period. Haven't seen anything with like this level of writing, self-indulgence, weirdness that comes together, like, but it's that cohesive and it's so consistent in its theming. It's such a unique voice in anime that like I can't help but fucking respect it, even if I didn't love it.
And I don't think any anime studio could have done this justice like Shaft did.
Shaft fucking nailed it. Like, we talked about the visuals, and it's still in this late of a part in the story, they still managed to like give you so many cool, like, yeah, definitely. And again, not necessarily like the best animated show ever, but what they do with their limited animation, just like JoJo does, is like give you something very striking visually, and I love it, man. So
I would say good. And maybe you might disagree with this. I would say, like, in terms of like its mark on anime in general, I would say definitely up there with the likes of JoJo's by David Productions.
Yeah.
I'd say the original Evangelion. I know that's rarefied air, but
I mean, if we talk about merchandising, Monogatari sure knows how to merchandise itself. Like, that's definitely true.
But I would say just in terms of writing, and like the whole cohesive package of an anime. Like, I look back on it now. Of course, it's not that old, but it's certainly not as old as the original Evangelion yet.
Sure.
But I think it will have left its mark, 10, 15, 20 years from now in the exact same way I think the original Eva has.
The thing is, with Eva was interesting because the moment Eva aired and then finished, so many shows tried to be like Eva, like Rexaphon, and like you had all these like original mecha anime that came out sort of like after riding that wave, tried to be not just mecha, but also like very
Eva, very introspective, very philosophical.
And with Monogatari, we don't really have that, and I don't think
we have one. We have one anime that's tried to be Monogatari. Bunny Girl Senpai.
and you see what the results
and
are.
It's not good.
It's not great. It's not great. And I liked some parts of it, but it's not great. And because this series is such a unique voice, for better or for worse,
Yeah.
like the man or hate him, you gotta respect the fact that he's a very unique writer.
Yeah.
And you can't, like, there's no one else that can write like him. I don't know about his manga writing, but apparently it's not great.
Apparently that's not great, but of course he's not a manga writer. He's a fucking light novel writer.
Yeah, he's an author.
An auteur, you might say.
Auteur. But yeah, dude, like it's crazy that we've been doing this for like more than a year.
Almost a year and a half.
Almost a year and a half. Because this was wild, going back and rediscovering shit. Like, again, this is like my third run through for some of these parts of Monogatari.
Yeah.
Still find new shit to gush about. Like,
yeah.
If this wasn't apparent from all the hours we talked about this show, we like this show a lot, you know?
Yeah, we like the Monogatari series quite a bit, if you can't tell. Yeah, I'm like you, though. I think I give this final, the Owarimonogatari second season, or part 3, however you want to look at it, I give it definitely a 10 out of 10. Like, it wraps up almost everything I had questions on, like, perfectly. It leaves enough ambiguity for me to kind of theorize what kind of what happened with some of these characters after the fact. Of course, if you go and read the light novels, you know what happened to some of these characters after the fact.
I can't read. but the thing that was interesting to me, now I'm for the past 2-3 years since Zoku came out, I was curious what the fuck is gonna happen in Zoku, because this is such a definitive end. Like, what else is there to cover? So I'm still curious to see how Zoku sort of like justifies its own existence, just like an apparition.
Well, we'll have to. That's a good callback right there. Thank you. We'll have to see with the dab on the haters, dab on the Phoenix. She'll T-pose, you dab. We'll see who wins. Yeah, we'll have to see. We'll have to see when we do the Zoku Owari Monogatari Spoilercast, which will be our next and last part of this Spoilercast series. I'm looking forward to it.
Getting there.
Yeah. That's it. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, that's it.
I can't really think of any other way to end this except, it's been a hell of a journey, and I can't wait to finish it out with you. We've done a lot with this podcast, and this was like our first attempt at a really long-running series of episodes, and I'm really proud of how it's turned out.
It was quite long-running.
But I'm proud of how it's turned out.
Same. I'm very happy about it. It was a lot of fun. I'm very, very happy that we got to go on this journey, and I'm excited. I'm excited to watch something I haven't watched yet for the first time in this show. So
all right. Well, thank you everyone out there for dropping in to watch us. Check the description below where you can find links to Anime Club After Dark on Twitch, on social media, and on Discord. We also have a merch store link down there. Any purchases you make in that merch store really do help us out. With that, I have been your host, Alex, and I will see you next time. Say goodnight, Natai.
Good night. Keep yourself moisturized.
Don't go outside in tank tops in the winter. Don't do it.
Don't get sick for like 3 weeks and delay a fucking episode of the podcast like that.
Don't be like Ogi.
Just don't be like Ogi.
That's all you gotta do.
Bro, I mean, for the record, she wears gloves, so.
And she wears long sleeves. Really long sleeves.
Really long sleeves.
What's she doing under those sleeves, Natai? What are you doing under that blanket, Natai?
My hands are up here. Stop fucking gaslighting me. Piece of shit.